Hi guys, this is chapter 4 of the White Giraffe, so let's begin. It might even be chapter 5 too. Afterward, Martine would always remember her first journeys to Sambwawa, and a man named Tende explained as the Zulu greeting. He was from the Zulu tribe himself. He took to the coastal road of Cape Town, riding in his battered jeep past a series of magical bays and inlets where the sea was a massive blue against the clear sky. Some beaches were wild with flying sprays and forests growing almost to the shore. Some had rainbow beach huts and surfers riding on breakers on bright boards. Some had rocky colonies of penguins or seals, and all of them were overlooking by the mauve gray cliffs of a flat top mountain which was called, for obvious reasons, Table Mountain. After an hour they turned inland, and Martine was amazed at how quickly the scenery changed from a heathery type of vegetation and became like the Africa she'd always seen in photographs. Pale spiky thorn trees and ragged shrubs dotted along yellow grass which glowed beneath the blazing summer sun as if it was lit from underneath. The empty road stretched on forever. Martine rolled down her window in a hot cab, and the dusty animal smell of the bush poured into the jeep. Tende talked about the Simwabs along the way, describing his job as a tracker at the game reserve. It turned out was not just a game reserve, it was a wildlife sanctuary, and it was Tende's role to check the progress of every animal in the park. About a quarter of the animals had been born there, but all the rest were rescued. Some came from drought-stricken areas or game reserves or zoos that had gone out of business. Others been bought to them with injuries or because they'd been orphaned in huts or culls. In 20 years, Tende said, I never saw Henry Thomas, your grandfather, turn a single animal away. Not even one. This was the first mention there had been a grandfather, and Martine pricked up her ears. But Tende's next sentence also caught her totally off guard. I'm so sorry, Miss Martine, that I wasn't there at his side watching over him the night that he died. Martine's head was already spinning from jet lag and lack of food, and the news of this made it spin just a little bit more. It was clear that it hadn't occurred to Tende that she might not even have known her grandfather, let alone that he died. She said carefully, Would it be okay if you told me what happened? Tende's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Yeah, Bo, he said, I can try. It turned out that nearly 2 years had passed since her grandfather's death, and yet the events surrounding it were still shrouded in mystery. The police theory was that Henry had stumbled upon a gang of poachers trying to steal a couple of giraffes or maybe kill them for trophies. It had happened on a weekend where Tende was away in the north of the country visiting his relatives, a weekend when Sabuno was at its most vulnerable. There had been a struggle. When it was over, Henry had been fatally wounded and the giraffes left for dead. There was no telephone in the village where I was staying, said Tende, so I never knew that this terrible thing had happened until I returned on Monday. Then it was much too late. In the summer, many Zulus asked the Rain Queen to bless their fields with rain, but that week it seemed like she listened far too well. For 2 days the storms had been washing away the tracks, and the police and their vehicles had been driving all over the grounds. By the third day, when I came, there was no sign to be found. None of the hunters have ever been caught. To this day, nobody knows whether Henry had just been murdered or shot by accident in the struggle. Most puzzling of all was why the poachers had fled without the giraffes they had so obviously come for. Did the police manage to find any clues? Martine asked worriedly. It was sad to hear about her grandfather, but it was even more disturbing to know there were killers on the loose in the very place she expected to make her new home. Those baboons. Don't worry, little one. Even the spider leaves the trail. It might take some years, but eventually we will find out who did this. Maybe if we are patient enough, they will even find us. The Zulu's face had darkened during the conversation, and now he gave himself a little head shake as though remembering that he and Martine had only just met, and perhaps he was saying more than he should. She smiled at his amazing smile. Your grandfather had a warrior's heart, he told her. He was the best game warden, #1. Martine felt pang for the grandfather she'd never known. He sounded like a good man. The new game warden was a young man by the name of Alex Dupreez. There was something in the way that Tenday said his name that gave Martine the impression that Mr. Dupree's was not on Tenday's top 10 favorite people list. They were passing a village of thatched huts and scattered houses with sunflowers and maize stalks in the yard. A group of African children were playing soccer in a field. The jeep slowed and turned into the driveway overhung by banana palms, and at the end of it was a pale green house with corrugated iron roof. A peeling Coca-Cola sign was propped against one wall. 3 chickens wandered out through the front door. Martine climbed up out of the jeep. "Is this my grandmother's house?" she asked, unable to hide her surprise. She wasn't sure what she was expecting, but it wasn't this. "No, Chilly. Tenday is just bringing you to see me." Martine turned around to see one of the fattest women she'd ever encountered waddling across the threadbare lawn. She was wearing a traditional African headdress in the most brilliant colors, with the matching headscarf of banana yellow, Kalahari red, and lime green. "I told him you would be hungry," the woman continued in a voice as warm as buttermilk. "And I see I'm right. Look at you, child. You're just skin and bone." "Miss Martine, meet my aunt, Miss Grace," said Tenday with evident pride, "the best cook in the world." They followed Grace into the little greenhouse. The smells coming from the kitchen were divine. She and Tenday made themselves comfortable on handmade wooden chairs of Grace's simple but spotless living room. There was a woven grass mat on the floor, and an out-of-date calendar on the wall depicting a tropical island. In a matter of minutes, Grace emerged from the kitchen with 2 huge plates containing omelets made from farm-fresh eggs and mild mushrooms, a heap of crispy bacon, tomatoes fried with brown sugar. Martine felt as she hadn't eaten in years and savored every mouthful in silence. By the time she had finished, she agreed with Tenday wholeheartedly. Grace was the best cook in the whole world. She turned to Grace to thank her and found a woman watching her intently. "Child, you just look like Veronica," Grace commented to Tenday. Martine jumped as if she'd been scolded. "You do my mom?" she cried. "Aunt," shouted Tenday, leaping to his feet. "I told you not to say anything." "Quiet, boy," ordered Grace. "There'd be too many secrets at Sumbabana. The child has a right to know the truth." "What's the truth?" demanded Martine. "Miss Martine," said Tenday, "I'm sorry. We must go now." "But, please?" Martine looked from one side to the other, her head buzzing with questions that it was clear she was not going to be allowed to ask. Grudgingly, she followed Tenday out of the jeep. Grace grabbed her arm. "Wait," she said, put her hand on Martine's forehead, and Martine felt an electric current pass through her. Grace's eyes widened. "You have the gift, child," she whispered, "just like your forefathers said." "What gift?" Martine whispered back. But Grace just shook her head. "Be very careful. The gift can be a blessing or a curse. Make your decisions wisely." And that's the end of